Board of Zoning Appeals. And Mr. Wilson, if you could please introduce the evidence and call the roll.
Margaret Clemens.
Here.
Bernie Garitas.
Here.
William Hosea.
Here.
Mary Beth Kamarchek is not here. And we have a new member, Vicki Sorensen.
Welcome, Vicki Sorensen.
And Margaret, we need to have her sworn in, and I put the oath up there.
Okay,
Just-
and I should give it to her to read?
I think
Or
she's
she
got a
has it?
copy.
Okay, we'd like to swear you in and welcome you to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And if you could repeat after me, I, Vicki Sorensen, do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States of America and of the state of Indiana, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform my duties as a substitute Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals member according to the law and to the best of my skill and ability.
And I repeat this.
Thank you.
I, Vicki Sorensen, do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States of America and of the state of Indiana, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform my duties as a Board of Zoning Appeals member according to the law and to the best of my skill and ability.
Thank you so much, and thank you for serving, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the next order of business is the introduction of evidence.
I request that the following items be introduced as evidence for tonight's meeting. The Monroe County Comprehensive Plan is adopted and amended. Monroe County Zoning Ordinance is adopted and amended. Monroe County Subdivision Ordinance is adopted and amended. Rules of Procedure of the Board of Zoning Appeals of Monroe County, and the case is advertised and docketed for hearing on tonight's agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And then are we able to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Do we have enough members who were present?
You consent to that. We don't need to, you just say there's no issue with the minutes, right?
I think we have to, I thought we voted on it.
You can vote on them. The basic rule on voting on minutes is you don't necessarily have to be at the minutes, but you have to have read them and be familiar with them. So if you haven't done that, we can just postpone it to the next meeting.
There's three of us here.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of the February 5th?
I move we approve the minutes of the February 5th, 2020 meeting. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well then, seeing as how there's no administrative business tonight, we're starting with old business, which is the Cummins version 2 buildable area variance from chapter 804, page 4, and that's item number 1912-VAR-72. So, Mr. Myers?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this petition we've heard before. It's old business, but since there's a few new members, we'll go ahead and go through it like we haven't heard it at all before. But I will give some updates as a timeline here. January 8th was when this petition was originally heard. And at that time, the board voted to continue the petition to allow for more time to appropriately address the drainage concerns on the site. We had a neighbor come in and voice their concern about a shared property line and the drainage from that shared property line into Lake Lemon and their own property. On February 5th, Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, no drainage plan had been submitted before that hearing date, so it was continued by planning staff. And then tonight's meeting, March 4th, a drainage plan was submitted earlier this week, and all parties have agreed upon that drainage plan, and Terry Coleman is here tonight to answer any questions about it as well, and he approved that submitted plan as well. So let's go ahead and go back into this petition since it's been some time since we've heard it. The petitioner requests a design standards variance from chapter 804-4E of the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance. The variance request is for the construction of an attached 2-car garage outside of buildable area, or more specifically on slopes greater than 15%. The proposed attached garage will be placed on the western side of the house, measuring 20 by 28 feet, and will be utilized for residential use. The current single-family residence was constructed in 2017 and was granted a design standards variance from the buildable area requirement by the Board of Zoning Appeals on May 4th of 2016. The purpose of that variance was to demolish an old 272 square foot residence and construct the new 826 square foot residence that is there today. The variance was granted with the condition that land disturbance in 15% slope area was permitted only for the single-family dwelling as shown on the submitted plans, and that all erosion controls were followed. In September of 2019, the petitioner applied for a design standards variance to the buildable area requirement for the purposes of constructing a 13-foot by 20-foot attached one-car garage. The Board of Zoning Appeals heard this petition, and it was approved in October of 2019 with the following conditions. The petitioner submit an as-built survey for the property that includes the storage shed addition located on the north side of the house that was not originally approved, and that the petitioner require an after-the-fact improvement location permit for that structure, and the petitioner complete a drainage plan that is satisfactory to the county MS4 operator or coordinator. And finally, the petitioner work with Monroe County planning staff to ensure the placement of the one-car attached garage does not encroach into any easements on the property. When these conditions were approved and met, the variance petition moved forward, and the staff received an improvement location permit application from the petitioner's representative to begin construction of the one-car garage. However, when we reviewed that application, we realized that the petitioner and the petitioner's representative had increased the size of that one-car garage to a two-car garage. And as a result, since it was a deviance from the original Board of Zoning Appeals approved petition, we had to apply for a new petition. And that's why this case is here today. That's why it's called the version 2 variance petition. So this new petition is to request to build a 560 square foot garage, and it requires a variance because it's in the slopes that are greater than 15%. If the variance request for the garage is approved, the petitioner is required to meet improvement location permit requirements, including setbacks and all our design standards for the construction of the new 560 square foot attached two-car garage. If the variance petition is denied by the Board of Zoning Appeals tonight, the petitioner retains the ability to construct the one-car garage as approved and represented in the original variance petition. So this property is located out on Tunnel Road. It is 7673 North Tunnel Road. It's in Benton Township, Section 34. It's on Lake Lemon. The zoning has this zoned as suburban residential. The comprehensive plan has it zoned as, one second, make sure. Rural residential. Here we have the site conditions and the FEMA floodplain on the property. It seems that the slideshow is frozen. There it goes. Here's the slope map, so you can see that the majority of the property, if not all of it entirely, is greater than 15% in the slope. And now here we have some site photos of the property. This top left photo is on North Tunnel Road, is a higher road to the right, and then it offshoots down to a private drive that services several homes along this shared drive. The bottom right photograph is going down that shared drive. You can see the retaining wall there to the right, and to the left is the petition site. Panning to the left, you can see the single-family residence that is built there now. Same with the bottom right photograph, another angle of that single-family residence. And then here, these two photographs are where the proposed two-car garage will be placed. It will be kind of staggered more closely to the shared driveway, but will be connected to the single-family residence. Some more photographs here of that proposed site. And then these are some photographs of the drive again, and the second exit that goes back onto North Tunnel Road in that bottom right photograph. Here's an aerial photograph of when that single-family residence was completed. You can see to the left in that photograph is the attached utility shed that was originally unpermitted. The petitioner and petitioner representative went through all the processes in the last Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to get that approved, and that has an after-the-fact permit now. So that's all squared away. Here we have the petitioner's letter and the consent letter. Here we have a site plan. You can find these in your packet. And then this is a little bit more of a construction plan that shows the size of the two-car garage and kind of the construction schematics for where it will be located and in relation to the slope of the area. Now, this is the approved drainage plan that was submitted and signed off by the petitioner's representative, i.e. the builder, and the concerned neighbors to the west, and their builder as well. They have a home that's under construction. If you would like a better view of this document, I have it here rolled up because it was submitted after the packet went out. So if you want to take a look at it, let me know. I also have a letter of support from those neighbors that were originally showing some concerns for the drainage. So I'm going to hand them out to you now because they came out also after the packet was released.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so other department comments. The highway department didn't have any comments. Stormwater department's comments were from Terry upon his review of the drainage plan. We just have the quote here from him in his comment on the plan. And finally, we have the recommended motion for this petition. Staff recommends denial of the design standards variance to Chapter 804 for the buildable area requirement based on the findings of fact, specifically finding C regarding the practical difficulty of having a two-car garage instead of a one-car garage.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you help me to understand finding C specifically?
Regarding practical difficulties?
Yeah, because you recommended motions to deny based on finding C.
Sure. So finding C says the approval, including any conditions or commitments deemed appropriate, is the minimum variance necessary to eliminate practical difficulties in the use of the property, which would otherwise result from a strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance. So for the garage addition proposal, the planning staff found that practical difficulties do not exist on the property because the use of the property as residential will not be affected whether or not that they have a one-car garage or a two-car garage.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Does that adequately answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff from the Plan Commission members? Okay, would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative like to speak on behalf of this case? So if so, please come to the podium, sign in, and raise your right hand. Give us your name and raise your right hand. Okay. And what is your name, sir?
Bob Cummins.
Bob Cummins. Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Cummins.
Yeah. To start off with, we've had a long discussion with the neighbor about whether it'd be a one-car garage or a two-car garage. We have an agreement with the neighbor that it'd be a two-car garage. Actually, a two-car garage makes sense because if you went out to the property, the neighbor's concern was drainage. If you look at the plan, the two-car garage, there's going to be about a 5-foot setback, 6 or 7 maybe, depending on where it is on our property line. The house that's being next to us is a 5-foot setback from the property line. So basically what you have between the two residences, ours being the garage connected to the house, their being their house, is about 10 feet, give or take. Falls within the guidelines and so forth. And the idea with both parties, and this was discussed last August and still is the wish of both parties, is that we have the same level of land between the two parties that will actually come to a little bit of a swell in the middle. So as you go down the property line, you're going to have a little bit of a swell there. The idea being that would direct, if there's any rainwater, whatever, that would direct the water down to the lake. So it actually benefits both parties. And that we've discussed for quite a while now. The reason that we went to a larger garage was, as we went into this process, my wife and I decided that we needed to have more storage out the lake. We had built the home, or the residence there, as a cottage to be used as such. Over the time, we found out two things. One is you don't have enough room to store everything. If you've ever been on a lake, as we've learned, there's not enough room there. The other thing is that as we got the plans put for the single-car garage, there were two things that came up to us. One is the cost, and two was that as we talked about it more, the more and more my wife and I talked about it, the more and more we thought, you know what? Why don't we just, in a couple years, sell our house and move out to the lake and make that residence out to the lake our permanent residence? Sell the home that's here in Bloomington. We have a home here in Bloomington. Sell it and move out there. And we felt that if we did, we would need a two-car garage. And that's the reason why you see it. That wasn't any part of anybody's idea to deceive anyone. It was just simply, as we got into this process and we looked at, okay, here's what a single-car garage would cost us. Here's what a two-car garage would cost us. You know, it really makes sense for us to go that way. And that's the reason why we did it. And then if you think about the drainage, you're talking about a 30 or 35-foot piece of property that goes down to the lake. 20 feet of that's going to be a garage that any rainwater that comes down is going to collect in the gutters. It's all going to be going down to the lake. Any rainwater that comes off of the road is going to be collected in, I don't know what you call that grate that goes in front of a garage door. It goes down to that water and also is pumped down to the lake, or not pumped, but also drains down to the lake. And then you got this swell between the two properties, which benefits both properties. I mean, that's the reason for the two-car. That's the reason for the change. I will say that my neighbor and I have had some difficulties about this whole drainage thing. I won't deny that. We had Mr. Quillman come out, and he went through it we had both builders there, we had both owners there. We went through the whole thing. We agreed to it. What you see up there is what was agreed to by both parties. And so we asked that it be approved.
Do any members of the commission have questions for Mr. Cummins? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Cummins. And is there anyone else who would like? Yes.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I would like to add two other things to this.
Yes.
And I remember an individual a long time ago when I was working, I'm retired now, head of sales for a department, said to me, you know, the biggest problem he had with salespeople was they don't know when to shut up and take the order and run with it. I guess I'm one of those. I don't know when to be quiet and leave. Two things. I wasn't here for the January meeting. Probably should have been, but I wasn't. My representative, Mr. McCardle, our builder, was here. And I understand from the meeting there's some things said into the record about Mr. McCardle and about the practices, and I wish to make a public statement that I disagree with those comments, and I'd like to go on the record as I disagree with those comments. There was also a letter handed out, a 23-page letter that was handed out I would also like to go on the record, and the reason why I want to go on the record is not to get into this. This is a lesson you guys want. I'm sure you'd rather get out of here and go see the game tonight, as I would, but it's in the record now, and a record's been established. And I've been around the horn a long time, enough to know that at some point in time, that record may come back to light. And so I just want to enter my comment tonight that I find that record inaccurate, I find it misleading, and I object to it. And if this board would ever want me to put in writing a response to that, both from an attorney, I've even retained a hydrologist, if needed, to take a look at this thing, because it's just gone to the point of being crazy. So, as I said earlier, I probably just should have been quiet a few minutes ago and left, and hopefully you guys would approve it. We do have an agreement with the parties. All parties were in agreement, and I hope that you go ahead and proceed to approve it. And I thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cummins,
Yeah.
because you did bring it up, I
Yes,
just
go
wonder
ahead.
what you're referring to. I have the copy of the January minutes before me, and I wonder what exactly it was that was said about Mr. McCardle that you find objectionable.
It was said it in writing. I wasn't here, so I don't
see.
have direct.
I see.
I know what was put into writing about deceptive building practices.
Oh, you mean in the packet
Yeah.
that it was in
Yeah.
some,
And that, I wonder, what does that have to do with anything? There was, when we built the lake cottage out there, again, the idea was it was a cottage, we go out there and enjoy it in the summer and fall and so forth. As we got down to the final last few minutes before the foundations were going to be poured out there, my wife and I were out there with the builder, and we were looking at, to the left side of the property, we needed to put a cement pad down so we could put like one of these barn type sheds, wooden sheds you could put on there so you could store like a lawnmower or something such as that. As we got talking, that's what my wife wanted to do. I argued with her and said, you know, that doesn't really look that good, and at some point in time, we're going to have to replace it, and you're going to have to get it down there. Talked to Mr. McCardle, can we put something onto the side of the house that would be more, I don't know, pleasant to look at maybe, and would serve as a shed? My mistake, I never thought about this, it's not my bailiwick, building and so forth. Should have gone back to the appropriate department at the county and say, hey, look, we need to revise the permits so we can have this shed. And for some reason, this shed has been an issue. I don't know why, but we've got the appropriate building permit now. We paid for it. Everything's in order, and so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cummins. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this petition who's in the audience? And seeing none, is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Thank you, Mr. Cummins. Thank you. Okay. Now, is there any discussion among the Plan Commission members? BZA. Oh, yeah, BZA member.
Yeah, my observation is that very happy that Mr. McCardle and Mr. Cummins took the time to go speak with the neighbors and draw them into the process because the concern was the drainage. I think really what I took notes through the packet, and a lot of the things that Mr. Cummins spoke to were things that I thought were positive about what they want to do, how we got here. You know, sometimes it just happens, but I think overall, because the neighbors are working with them, they're working with the neighbors. Mr. Cummins' observations of his builder is very positive because you don't always see that. I think that the one thing that resonated with me the first time we saw this, and then now again, you know, we have stuff, and the stuff we have ends up, that's not in the house, ends up in the garage. If we don't have a garage, it ends up out in front of the garage or on the side. So I think it's probably appropriate for this house. Again, why we got here doesn't really matter to me, I guess, but I think it's probably going to serve the area well, and the added bonus of the neighbors being in agreement with what's going on, and there are drainage improvements that should mitigate any of the questions that are out there. I think it's positive. So those are my observations.
Does anybody else have a question or a comment? I have one myself, if it's okay. I'd like to interject it, and it's just to remind everyone who's viewing and anyone who's building or attempting to build that anytime there's a change in your plans, you must coordinate with the plan department, because otherwise you're risking a lot of investment and also goodwill in the community. And so that all plans need to be coordinated. If in doubt, call the plan department. That's my encouragement. But does anybody else have any recommendations or thoughts or questions about this particular case?
Yeah, I have one.
Thank you, Mr. Jose.
So the planning department recommended against the motion, is that correct?
That is correct, and we are obligated to recommend denial when one of the findings of fact, any one of them, is not proven to be sufficient.
So if the board approves this request, what kind of problems is the property owner looking at further down the line?
If the board approves it, they will be granted the buildable area variance for the two-car garage. Now, if they were to come back with any other building plans to add on to that garage or to the home, they would need to go through the buildable area process again, just like they did with the home.
Right, that's not my question though.
Oh, okay.
Would there be any problems with the structure itself?
I don't know if I could speak on
Okay.
the ability of the structure to be sound if the two-car garage was not completed or if it was completed.
Okay.
Presumably, wherever the garage and whatever size it is will be built according to code, as a part of the building code process. So it's not a question of the soundness of the structure, it's really a question of the size and location of the structure. That's the subject of the variance. We often recommend in a case where the ordinance could be complied with merely by reducing the size of the dwelling or the structure. We feel we really can't recommend that as a practical difficulty not to have a two-car garage when there's enough room for a one-car garage. The Board of Zoning Appeals can find that to be a practical difficulty and often does find it to be a practical difficulty in utilizing a piece of property. And that's kind of the distinction between our findings and the findings you can make as a BZA. We're obligated to defend the ordinance, and that's the role we take. Your obligation is to provide relief from the ordinance where in a particular case or a particular location, it is creating practical difficulties with the utilization of the property.
Okay, thank you. I think you just changed my mind.
I'll entertain a motion.
Do that. Matter of case number 1912-VAR-72, Cummins version 2, buildable area, variance from chapter 804, page 4. I move that we approve the variance based on the drainage plan that Terry Quillman reviewed and we've seen as evidence in the meeting, and I believe practical difficulties have been met.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
The vote is on petition number 1912-VR-40, 72? 72. Cummins to buildable variance, area variance. A vote to, a yes vote is a vote to approve the variance based upon the findings with the amended finding that there was practical difficulties shown and with the conditions set forth in the staff report and upon the drainage engineer's recommendation. Again, a yes vote is a vote to approve the variance. Margaret Clements?
Yes.
Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
William Hosea?
Yes.
And Vicki
Sorensen.
Sorensen?
Having just received the packet, I will have to abstain.
Okay. I show 3 yes votes and an abstention. And so the variance is granted.
Thank you. Thank you for working this out among your neighbors and with the builder and with the plan department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Okay, we're moving on to case number 2001 VAR-08. And Ms. Payne, would you like to present the case? It is design standard variance.
Yes. Good evening. This is a petition for a minimum lot size variance from Chapter 804. The property is located at 4991 North Loudon Road. It's a .88 acre parcel in Richland Township, Section 9. It is zoned Ag RR. Surrounding properties are also zoned Ag RR. Surrounding uses are primarily residential and agricultural. The property is currently vacant, and property directly east of the petitioner is in the town of Ellettsville jurisdiction. The site is accessed off of North Loudon Road, which runs along the north-south. Loudon Road runs north-south on the east side of the property. There are no karst features apparent on the site. It is not in a FEMA floodplain, and it does not reside in an environmental constraint overlay. And North Loudon Road is classified as a local road. The site does have some slope restrictions along the southern portion of the property, but this does not impact the petitioner's proposed location of the barn. The barn will be built outside of the sloped areas there towards the north. The site is designated rural residential in the Monroe County Comprehensive Plan. Here we have some site photos, and I apologize. Just looking through my slides, I realized I've got these labeled incorrectly. So I'll just talk you through them real quick. Photo 1 here is actually standing at the site looking to the east. Photo 2 is also looking east. Photo 3, I'm standing in the middle of the access point, again looking east, so just here I'm showing the character of the surrounding area. Photo number 4 is looking west from the access point, or westish. Photo 5 is looking south. Photo 6 is looking north again. I have included the site plan here. You can see that the proposed barn is located in the northwest corner, and it sits 25 feet away from the property line, which is sufficient in this zone. The petitioner did downsize the size of his proposed barn to meet the 1,750 square foot requirement. So his proposed barn is 1,740 square feet. Here is a detailed site plan. You can see the dimensions here. And finally, we have the petitioner's letter. So he is intending to build the pole barn to store hay. Hay. Straw. Hay. Staff recommends approval of the minimum lot size requirement of Chapter 804 based on findings of fact. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for staff? Is the petitioner or the petitioner's representative here? Please come forward and sign in and state your name, please.
My name is Mel Crane.
Mr. Crane, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crane. If you'd like to speak, we're ready to hear.
No, I currently live in Avon, and I've had some issues with items being stolen out of a barn that I currently use. Things that's been stolen out of rental places. My two sons, one lives in Ellisville, one lives on the east side of Bloomington. And we were looking for lots that I could put one on, a pole barn. And the lot that we selected is about 3/4 away, of a mile away from where my youngest son lives. The gentleman that lives in front of this parcel, I've known him for 35 years. And I've met the other gentleman that's on the back side of the lot. And so we picked a contractor, and we're just waiting on, and we've come to an agreement with the lady that's selling the lot, but it's based on, an approval of the variance. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Crane? No? Thank you, sir.
I just have one question for clarity. You're not planning to live in the pole barn?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
You may take a seat, and
Okay.
I'll ask if there are any other members of the audience who would like to speak in favor of this petition. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to the petition? Seeing none, we'll come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals and discuss the matter if there are any comments or questions or deliberations. And if not, we will entertain a motion.
I can do that.
Thank you.
In the matter of case 2001-VAR-08, the Crane minimum lot size variance from chapter 804, I move we approve the variance based on the staff's report and the findings of fact within.
Okay, is there a second? And Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Okay, the vote is on petition number 2001-VR-08, the Crane minimum lot size variance. The vote in favor is a vote to grant the minimum lot size variance based upon the findings and the conditions set forth in the report. Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Margaret Clemens.
Yes?
Vicky Sorensen.
Having received the packet, I will
Okay.
abstain.
I'll note your abstention. So the variance is granted by 3 with 1 abstention. So it is granted.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight, and congratulations. I hope you have more peace. Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to, I think, the final case of the evening. Am I right? So the matter is 2002-VAR-09-12, and this is a design standards variance to Chapter 804 for minimum lot size and lot width. Mr. Myers, will you please present the case?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, this is for 4 variances.
4 variances, thank you.
So we have a minimum lot size, a minimum lot width, a front yard setback variance, and a buildable area variance, all
Okay.
in one. So here we have a quick summary of all 4 of the variances being petitioned for tonight. We have the minimum lot size of their zoning district, which is Ag RR, and that minimum lot size is 2.5 acres. This parcel is only 0.73 acres. The minimum lot width for the Ag RR zone is 200 feet at building line, and their lot width at building line would be 133 feet. The front yard setback, they are proposing a 0 foot front setback We'll get into more of the details with that one. And they are also proposing a buildable area variance because there's some portions of the property that are higher than the 15% mark. And we'll get into that as well in this presentation. So the petitioner requests 4 design standards variances from Chapter 804 in order to build an approximately 2,300 square foot single-family residence on a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The lot does not contain any structures and is unplatted. Though the lot is not in a platted subdivision, it is adjacent to the town of Hindustan Heights plat and was referenced in a survey in 2006, which is one of the exhibits in your packet. The unique shape of the lot is a result of the remaining acreage after the town of Hindustan Heights and the cemetery were created. The amount of buildable area on this lot, closest to North State Road 37, is approximately 0.06 acres, or 2,700 square feet. The area of buildable exhibits a triangular shape, which is why the petitioner is requesting variances from the front yard setback to allow for more buildable area towards the road. The petitioner is requesting a variance from the required 2.5 acre minimum lot size in order to develop this approximately 0.73 acre lot. The lot also does not conform to the lot width of 200 feet at building line. Since the configuration of the lot is difficult to develop, the petitioner has requested a front yard setback variance to build the home 35 feet from the center line of North State Road 37, which is encompassed in right-of-way. The front yard setback is required to be 35 feet from right-of-way, which would mean a 70-foot setback from center line, which would eliminate a lot of the space in that area. Lastly, the site where the home would be located exceeds 15% slope. The petitioner has stated that they are not interested in pursuing a full boundary survey before this petition, which was the request by planning staff. However, the petitioner does intend on flagging the location of the home and the septic by a survey in relation to the property lines. There is one utility line from AT&T within the right-of-way of this property, and the petitioner has stated that AT&T will be moving that utility line since they do not have legal rights to be located there. REMC Electric does have an easement within that 35-foot right-of-way, but no utilities are currently located there. If requested, REMC or the Highway Department could locate improvements up to that 35-foot area, and the proposed front setback is to ensure adequate area for future right-of-way improvements. It was stated by the Highway Department that they don't have any plans currently to improve or widen that right-of-way along North Old State Road 37. The septic system is going to be located in the western portion of the property, and the petitioner is aware that they will need to confirm the property lines for that septic system to ensure it's not located off-site. The petitioner has applied for and received a driveway permit from the Highway Department. Okay, so this property is located at 8917 North Old State Road 37. It's in Washington Township, Section 13. Here you can see kind of the configuration of the lot, kind of like a bow tie shape. Its current zoning is agricultural rural reserve, and there's some suburban residential to the south and forest reserve to the north. Here we have a site conditions map. And here we have the slope map. That blue rectangle is the approximate location of where the home is proposed to go. So you can see that this lot is pretty constrained by some of the factors here, by its lot size, lot width, and other environmental factors. If you notice in the top corner of the rectangle, that's where they will be dipping into that 15% slope area, and they plan to utilize that and create a walkout basement type design. The comprehensive plan has it designated as rural residential. And here we have some site photos. These two photos are of the potential driveway cut. This is along North Old State Road 37. And here we're going to pan from the left to the right. So we're going to pan from the southwest and go along to the looking west, and then eventually to the north. So top left is looking southwest of the site. It's very wooded right now. And then we're going to continue on here, panning to the right You can kind of see where that woodlot ends, and that's approximately where the property line ends as well. Here are some photographs of the petition site, very wooded right now. And this is a photograph, you're standing on the petition site or on the property line looking east across the road. Here's a 2019 aerial photograph of the petition site. And here we have the petitioner's letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals, as well as their proposed site plan that kind of shows them abiding by the side setbacks of 15 feet, but building right up to that right-of-way line where it would be the 0-foot front setback. Here we have the 2006 survey that was a reference with respect to the town of Hindustan. You can see there in the top corner where the petition site is, there is a dedicated 35-foot right-of-way. According to the Monroe County zoning ordinance and the thoroughfare plan, there would be an additional 35-foot setback from that 35-foot right-of-way, and that would essentially eliminate a lot of that area there to be built on. This image is has a buffer. So there was a line drawn along the center line of the road, and then it was buffered 35 feet on either side to kind of show the right-of-way, what the right-of-way would take with other properties in the area. The town of Hindustan properties, they have a smaller right-of-way according to their plat, so they don't technically abide by this buffer here. But if you look closely, this buffer of 35 feet on either side would actually go right up along several other homes in the area. So that 35-foot right-of-way that was dedicated on the property is substantial. Here's other department comments. The highway department had comments regarding the driveway cut, just clearing some trees to create a better sight distance. And the stormwater department didn't have any comments. So here we have a recommended motion. We have a recommended motion for each variance. We recommend approval of the design standards variance, Chapter 804, for the minimum lot size based on the findings of fact. The planning department also recommends approval of the design standards variance, Chapter 804, for the minimum lot width based on the findings of fact with the following condition. The site plan for the proposed home must be certified by a surveyor or engineer. In addition, the home and septic location must be flagged prior to issuance of the building permit. Finally, the planning department recommends denial of the design standards variance, Chapter 804, for the front yard setback based on the findings of fact, particularly finding C with practical difficulties. I will read that finding here. One moment while I find it. Finding C, the property owner, it was found that the property owner could propose a smaller home size and therefore eliminate the need to encroach that much into the front yard setback, and that there is no hardship in reducing the proposed size of the home to meet the required setbacks. And then finally, the planning department recommends denial of the design standards variance, Chapter 804, for the buildable area, 15% SOAP requirement based on the findings of fact, and that same finding, letter C, relating to practical difficulties. That finding, the property owner could propose a smaller home size and therefore eliminate the need to encroach into the non-buildable area of the property, and that there is no hardship in reducing the proposed size of the home to meet the buildable area requirement. I will now take any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions.
I've got a quick question. On page 46, Drew, just so I understand it, it says in the fourth line, to build the home 35 feet from the center line of North Old State Road 37. Is that, but that's not in the right-of-way, correct? The existing right-of-way is it 35 feet or 70 feet from the existing center line?
The existing right-of-way is dedicated to 35 feet.
Right, so if they put it at 35 feet, it won't be in the right of way, it will be right at the right of way line, correct?
It'll be
Okay.
on the line.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, all right.
That's my understanding.
And then, I think I have one more. Oh, when was this plat for Hindustan Heights or when was this drawing done by?
The survey that you saw
Yeah.
was completed in 2006.
Okay, and that right of way was probably from the thoroughfare plan at the time?
We are left to assume that.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Those lots in Hindustan were platted a long time ago.
Right.
Yes.
And this and the cemetery were left out of those platted lots.
A lot has changed since then, you know.
Yeah, and I will add some clarification as well, that there was a discussion with Dave and the county attorney about whether or not this actually is a real lot of record. And we came to the determination that yes, it's been here for quite some time, and it is a individual lot of record.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, it wasn't necessarily platted that way, but it was a remnant that existed at the time the ordinance was approved. Is that correct, Dave?
Yes.
There's a deed for it.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
a deed for the parcel, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's deed history.
Okay.
Okay, would the petitioner or the petitioner's representative like to speak on behalf of this case? Thank you. Please sign in and state your name.
Amber Ryman.
Thank you, and could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Ryman.
So I bought this property off my mom. She had bought it years ago. And I bought it off her. I just recently got married, so we're just wanting to build our new home. So I'm just new to all of this and going by the book. And I do want to say thank you to Drew for everything, because he has took a lot of time with me and planning and getting all this together. So
Very
that's all I
good.
have. And I did bring my general contractor with me as well. If you have any
Okay.
questions for him.
Wonderful. Do any members of the Board of Zoning Appeals have any questions for either Ms. Ryman or her contractor, who's here as well? Seeing none, well, back to discussion among us, and,
So I've got another question, the right of way is what?
yeah,
Okay.
this is for staff.
Yeah, for staff, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
So looking at the drawing, if we've got 35 feet here, and then the thoroughfare plan probably required 70, but then north of this parcel, is that a 35-foot right-of-way again?
I think there's some confusion with the plat in that there was a electrical right-of-way,
I see.
that was called electrical right-of-way.
Yeah, so in this survey, we have a dedicated 35-foot right-of-way from center line. And that there was some confusion with a utility company, and that there is REMC does have a utility easement within that right-of-way to be used. But Bernie, to your question, whether or not that right-of-way, 35-foot right-of-way continues north, I'm not sure. I would assume so.
Yeah, the dimension on here is, it appears to be 37.8 feet, so at that angle, it's probably 35 feet. So it looks like this, it looks to me like this stretch of property, for whatever reason, because they wanted to go through this process to plat it out, was required to have that 70, but south of it and north of it, the right-of-way is 35 feet. I think, that's what I read on this drawing. Okay, that's the question I had for it, so. And then as far as the building footprint being in the.
Discuss the right-of-way or the setbacks from the adjacent houses.
For these houses?
Yeah, along that side.
Yeah, so just to clarify on this, I don't know if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. So you can kind of see the difference here in the right-of-way dedications from the platted town of Hindustan and this petition site. And according to Chapter 804 of the Monroe County Zoning Ordinance, different setbacks are in place dependent upon the road classification. So the way that those setbacks are in store here, there would be a 35-foot setback from the already 35-foot right-of-way for the petition site. And I believe the same setback would be required for the town of Hindustan plats of 35 feet because the road classification doesn't change. But that setback is measured from right-of-way. So the right-of-way changes here between those town of Hindustan plats and the petition site, and that's why there's a discrepancy in distance and spacing from each house to the road in this area.
And again, I was just looking at the this is kind of an anomaly, north and south, as far as where the right-of-way is for the road.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you put that green, your buffer image up there again?
Do you want me to zoom in?
Yeah, no, I don't need it. I'm just, so that is explain to me what that green, what
Yeah.
the limit of that is.
So the petition site, their platted right-of-way is a total of 70 feet. That's 35 feet on either side from center line.
Okay.
Now, that right-of-way changes for these little platted lots of the town of Hindustan. If that right-of-way hadn't changed, that's what this graphic is showing. That green is that 70-foot wide, that's 35 feet on either side of the center line, all the way through if it wasn't an anomaly just for the petition site. So if this were the case across the whole way here, as indicated, you would notice that some of these homes would also be right up along the right-of-way. On the opposite side of the road. I'm looking on the south one here. You can kind of see those homes would technically be in the front setback if that right-of-way was the same all the way through.
And I was just kind of looking at the character to see
Sure.
if we were looking at changing a bunch of stuff physically, right? And that's kind
I
of.
think it's safe to say that the houses on the same side of the road as this proposed house, I think, comply with the setback requirements. Is that
Yes.
okay? However, the ones on the opposite side of the road are closer and may be in the setback.
And I just kind of looked at that all in a little grouping because it was plotted at the same time, and as people are going up and down the corridor, they're not looking down the line, but they're still getting a feel for how close houses are to where they are. And the character just seems that the 70-foot or the 35-foot right of way here is an anomaly from what it was whenever they did the platted subdivision. So, and I'm glad to know that it's not proposed in the right of way, and that was my bigger hang up is how that happened. And then on the slope, so it's just this back corner on the north corner that we're talking about potentially being in the 15%.
In my opinion, that doesn't really, because the lot is so constrained, that it creates a practical difficulty
Yeah.
for the owners.
And I agree with that. That's
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was going with it. And, we saw Mr. Cummins, he brought up a very good point that it is disturbance. The general contractor's gonna have to make sure there's erosion control and, the things that are gonna protect that slope. But just looking at that property and the way that comes back, the draw and the way it lands, I mean, you can see it with the slopes and then you see the draw where it's blank in the center. It seems to me to bring it up this way is probably a more practical location for the home site.
I think it's the best they can do, given that lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I will add some clarification too, that this is just the best available data we have. It's very possible that red section there that's greater than 15%, according to this data, is actually not 15%. And that is one of the reasons why planning staff originally requested the petitioner submit a site survey so that we could potentially eliminate that as a variance option. But they didn't want to pursue the site plan surveyed, local land surveying for several reasons. So we had to go ahead and apply for this variance based on our data.
Well, I think are there any other questions or discussion among us? Pardon me? Oh, yes, sir. Please sign in and state your name. Would you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth? And what is your name, sir?
Rick Ball.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm uncle to Amber. But we've already got, or I met with Randy Raines, and we've got a septic permit, and everything's approved, and I do quite a bit of houses. Or excavate, and like Bernie was saying, that we'll do erosion control on the bottom side, and it'll work.
And you'll work with them if you find any irregularities and all of that?
Yeah, I work with the building department
That's great.
and stuff, but,
That's-
Randy flagged the location of the septic site. He's got it marked where it needs to go.
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've done that, yes. And then, Amber's mother bought the lot, I think, in '08. Her father passed away, and she didn't know which direction she was gonna go when this come up for sale. So she bought the lot, and then she ended up in another direction, and that. And so we had this vacant lot, and so that's how we end up with it.
Good proposal,
Yeah.
and the best that you can do with the shape of that lot.
Yeah, I know, it's tough. It's a tough little lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So, if there is a motion, we could,
I can make a motion.
oh, thank you.
Let me get my paperwork here together. I'm kind of all scrambled around with my notes. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, I think what we'll do, if it's okay with the Board of Zoning Appeals, I do 9 and 10 at the same time,
Okay,
and then I'll do 4 and 5 individually.
okay, perfect.
Does that seem reasonable to staff to do it that way? Well, I'll leave that's fine.
Can you just add some clarification of which ones you're grouping?
I was gonna group the 9 and 10 and group those together, and then separate 11 and 12.
Oh, okay,
So I'll have what I'm looking at doing is 3 motions,
okay.
okay? So in the matter of 2002-VAR-09 and 2002-VAR-10, Ryman, is it Ryman? Ryman minimum lot size variance from chapter 804 and Ryman minimum lot width variance from chapter 804 respectively. I move that we approve the variances based on the staff report and the findings contained therein.
Okay, is there a second? Second. And Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Okay, the vote is on petition 2002-VR-09 and petition 2002-VR-10, the Ryman minimum lot variance request and the Ryman minimum lot width variance request respectively. The motion is to approve both variances based upon the findings with the conditions set forth in the staff report. Again, a vote of yes is a vote to approve both variances. William Hosea?
Yes.
Margaret Clemens?
Yes.
Bernie Garitas?
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen?
Having received the packet, just.
Okay. I will note your
abstain.
abstention. Okay, both variances are approved by a 3-0 vote with 1 abstention.
Okay, and then in the matter of 2002-VAR-11, Ryman front yard setback variance from chapter 804, subject to staff's report and findings, I move that we approve that variance based on practical difficulties being met.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wilson?
Okay, this is the front yard variance?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The vote is on petition 2002-VR-11, Ryman front yard variance. Vote is to approve the variance based upon the findings with the amendment of the finding that there are practical difficulties utilizing the lot. A vote in favor is a vote to approve the variance with the amended findings. Margaret Clemens,
Yes?
Bernie Garitas.
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Vicky Sorensen.
Abstain.
Variance is approved by a 3-0 vote with 1 abstention.
Okay, in the matter of 2002-VAR-12, Ryman buildable area variance from chapter 804, subject to staff report and findings, and I do believe that practical difficulties have been met, I move that we approve that variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wilson?
Okay, the vote is on petition 2002-VR-12, Ryman buildable area variance. A vote of yes is a vote to approve the variance based upon the findings as amended to find practical difficulties in the utilization of the lot. Again, a vote of yes is a vote to approve the variance. Bernie Garitas,
Yes.
William Hosea,
Yes.
Mark Clemens.
Yes?
And Vicky Sorensen.
Abstain.
I note your abstention. The variance is approved 3-0 with 1 abstention.
Well, thank you so much and good luck with your plans. It's a beautiful area. Yes.
With that first set of approvals, did we capture the condition of staking out or flagging the septic location? And did we capture that condition?
I did not, but I did clarify the petition has flagged the location of the septic.
Yeah, it's already been,
conditions set forth in the report?
yes,
You know, that's probably right, yeah. I would have to.
I think I included that in the motion.
Well,
yes.
yeah, I think I would have to agree with that since I brought that into, it wasn't my intention, but since I brought the report into the motion, I would say that that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's a good clarification.
okay, just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice that they worked with you and, you know, really abided by the intentions of everything. It's so refreshing. Okay, so I think there are 2 other items on the agenda. One is a report from Mr. Wilson and another is a report from Mr. Schilling.
I have none.
Mr. Oh darn, Mr. Schilling?
I think the attorney, Mr. Schilling, has an extensive report as usual.
I actually do have one thing to say that would interest Bernie, and that is they've scheduled depositions for March 25th in the Geft case, and we've continued to fight that. We've had a federal magistrate consider the arguments, and he believes that the depositions should go forward, but we're going to make one more stab at it to try to get him to reconsider. But we'll let you know, and I'll be sending you copies of the subpoena.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I will say that I know for a fact that there are 2 dates in March that I had due to work. I've
Okay.
committed that I may, within the last 2 or 3 days, that I committed that we're open.
Okay.
March 25th is one of them. I haven't been told that that was the date that that meeting was going to take place. It's a meeting, it's either 11 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
So what I'll do is just advise you if that date is no longer available. And
Okay.
And then you work your magic and do what you need to do.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
A second.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.